We will continue our discussion here in Strasbourg in the European Parliament with Erik Bergqvist. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
You're an MEP representing Sweden here at the European level, and I think it's important to see what is the European mechanism for resilience and recovery fund and how it is actually applied in the member states.
Yeah, and I would say it's really important, and what we are doing now in Sweden, we are roughly using 50% for the green transition and about 20% for digitalization, and those are the main posts. And I would say this is doing good use in a country as Sweden.
So you are focusing only on these two aspects in your national fund?
These are the two really big ones. It's about, we got 3.3 billion euros to Sweden, and about 800 billion will go to the green transition, quite a lot to converting to sustainable bioenergy. Another 400 will go to this digitalization. Broadband. Sweden is a quite huge country, as you know, so we have quite a lot of sparsely populated areas where we have, I would say the pandemic has helped us understand that we need to connect all the country, and we have to do it quite quickly, and that's the same with all of Europe. And then we're using roughly about 200 to enhance the employment, because also we have in certain areas we have shortage of labor, so we need to use this to get better skills at the working force. So that is roughly the big issues, and we would say we estimate that this, and this is quite conservative, but it will create about 4,000 jobs in Sweden. It will increase, and this is also conservative, the Swedish GDP with about 0.3%, but also help others. So we will have an effect on external GDP, so to say, also. So this is something that really connects us and that we try to make the best use of in Sweden.
In general, people are saying, MEPs, also the representatives of the European Commissions and citizens also are saying that this is a huge opportunity, Resilience and Recovery Fund, to actually have a lot of money and put them in our countries in order to make somehow an equilibrium.
It is, and since we had the pandemic, and after that we're going down in a recession. The pandemic, but I'd say also recession, reminded how much we are connected. And if we want to get out, if we want to recover and also create this resilience and do the green transition even quicker, then we have to do things together. And I think this RRF fund is a really good example of solidarity and how we cooperate in the European Union. And we do it in a unique way that we haven't done before. So I would say this is something we all need, and it will help us all.
A lot of projects are being implemented in each member state, and I think that some countries are doing better, like your country. Some countries are doing not so good in terms of taking the money and using actually these European funds. How can we learn from each other?
Well, I think one thing is of course that we talk to each other, both via media, but also in the Parliament, in the House, that we exchange good ideas, but also that our national governments talk to each other, because the reason we have this resilience fund is that we have realized how much we are connected. So let's exchange good ideas, what is working, what is not working, because we will have problems, and we have problems implementing parts of this also in Sweden. So let's help each other and see where are the lowest hanging fruits, so that we quickly can use this into really needy and good investments.
In the case of in Romania's case, we've seen some changes due to also the changes in political situation in Romania. How dependent might such a plan be on who is running the government or not?
Well, in Sweden also, it was the former social democratic government who formed this and also submitted this plan. It was a little delayed because we already then had some internal issues, governmental crisis. Then we lost the election. But I would say in Sweden, most of the ideas we had are still in this resilience plan. And I would say it's quite easy. And it should be, regardless of party, the really important investments that we can get along with quickly. And we have similar problems when it comes to broadband infrastructure, when it comes to the green transitions, but also when it comes to the shortage of labor in certain areas. So I think if you make too much politics of this, then it will not work. So it shouldn't be so dependent on government unless the government want to do something that perhaps is not really useful.
Let's go back a little bit in the recent history, because we both remember that Resilience and Recovery Fund and the whole mechanism was created after pandemic and before war.
Yeah.
And it is now, in your opinion, adapted to the new situation, to the things that the war have changed in the European Union?
Well, I both think it's even more necessary now.
Sure.
But we also, I would say, it has adapted quite a lot and broadened the perspective, because it's pretty much, even though we have a completely different situation with the Russian aggression on Ukraine, but we have to both recover. And we will learn a lot now, because we have to help Ukraine recover also after this war. And we also have to increase our resilience, because we have seen that we can have pandemics in the world, we can have what we never wanted, a war in the middle of Europe, and we can also see that democracy is not always, I would say, advancing globally. It's quite a lot of the defensive. So we need to strengthen our European cooperation much more. And this RRF is one, I would say, unique but very strong step forward in that.
It was a discussion in my country, at least, regarding the prices, for example, that were impacted by the war that started. You know, the impact on the energy prices, but also on materials in general, that have somehow exploded. All the projects that were created were put on paper when designing the national plans. Is it still possible to meet the points that we are expected to meet in the end of these national plans?
Yes, it is. Some things has definitely become harder, and there was quite many things that went harder at quite a short time. But I would say this has strengthened the need, because we can see where are we able to keep energy prices reasonably low. Yes, it is where we have green energy, I would say mainly wind power. So we have to use this now. How can we speed up the transition to green power, because that's something that we have control over ourselves, and also something that will give us a reasonably cheap energy, for example. So I think if we can have the flexibility, the needs for what we want to do with RRF are even stronger. The obstacles, yes, they have been bigger in quite many cases, but I would say the conclusion is that we shouldn't let this stop us. We should instead let this encourage us even more, because we need to do the green transition. I would say we know it even stronger now. We need to do the digital Europe. And of course also we have to strengthen our European home against all sorts of conflicts and crises.
So the targets are still achievable?
They are. the road there might be somewhat different, and I would say we have got, in a way, new targets, or some targets have been stronger when it comes, for example, security and defense. These are, I would say, stronger targets now, and we are taking them much more seriously, which is good. But also we see we can't be dependent on fossil fuels, for example. We have to create our own energy resources, and if we want to do that in some years, then we have it's wind power, it's solar power, and it's also hydrogen, something that we can use both from solar power and from wind power. So,
in the end of our discussion, the Romanians are watching you right now. What's your message for them?
Well, my message is that I think Sweden has been more aware, and I think all countries in the European Union, we have been aware how much we are connected. We are in some cases very different, but we are also very similar. We have been on this continent for quite a long time, and we need to cooperate even more to actually remain this strong democratic welfare union. And I would say that's the message. We need each other more than ever in the European Union.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Iar vouă celor de acasă vă spun să rămâneți pe Antena 3 CNN. Nu uitați că ne revedem și sâmbătă viitoare la 9:30 cu bine și sănătoși să fiți.